Hi friends, my name is Kayla. I am one half of Riley and Kayla, and today's video is going to be about my tips and tricks and advice that I have for the partners of trans individuals and what I recommend for the process for you, any advice I have when your partner comes out, stuff like that. So I'm 27 and Riley is 32. We're 5 years apart. And about a few weeks ago, he came out to me as trans. It had been something that had come up a couple times in our relationship, kind of off the cuff, where I'd bring it up because he dresses very masculine. And that's not to say that queer folks or AFAB people that dress more masculine are trans automatically. It just had got brought up in our conversations, and each time that it got brought up, it was like 2 times. He was like, no, I'm definitely a girl, or I'm definitely a woman. And so I was like, okay, and just left it at that, because, you know, he knows his body best, he knows himself best, and so I wasn't like pushing or anything like that. And then we had a conversation about a month ago, and that was like the second time that the whole trans thing got brought up, because he had wrote me a letter. Long story short, that was really sweet while I was out of town, and I read it when I got in town, and there was a bunch of buildup in the letter, and I thought he was going to come out to me as trans, and it ended up being something else. But I told him that. I was like, I thought you were going to come out to me as trans, like, this is wild. And he was like, oh, interesting. And that was the first time that he, instead of just immediately brushing it off, was kind of like, huh. And so then he told me he started looking things up and sitting with that. And he had been doing a lot of like inner work and healing and therapy and just on his own to work through different traumas from his life and stuff. And so over the next week, he started like doing a deep dive basically. And we had a few conversations about his gender identity basically. And he had told me some things that I had never known about from like his childhood and different things that he's felt throughout his life. And throughout those conversations and him like looking into things and whatnot, he ultimately ended up coming out to me and said, hey, I'm trans. And I said, of course you were. And you know, there was never a doubt in my mind or any hesitation as to whether like I wanted to stay or not, because I fell in love with Riley for his soul and who he is. And I believe that we've been with each other in multiple lifetimes. And so if in this lifetime he feels safe to tell me he's trans, and that's who he is, and I love him. So I wanted to definitely talk about, though, some feelings that have come up for me, and specifically speak to partners with any advice I may have, and just validating your experience and how you're feeling. So your partner has come out to you as trans. First of all, awesome that they feel safe enough to tell you that. Chances are, if they're feeling comfortable enough to tell you that, then you're probably doing a great job being their partner, because you've created a environment and space where they feel that safety to open up to you that way. So that's the first thing. Secondly, Riley and I have talked about this, and the transition process is a transition for both partners, the one who is trans and then the partner who isn't. Even if you are trans and you have a partner that comes out to you as trans, I'm sure that there's also still it's still a transition for both of you, just in different ways. So finding ways to make sure you're taking care of yourself and checking in with one another, communication is key, is gonna help the process, I think. So something that I would recommend is just truly listen to them when they're coming out to you. Even if some feelings come up for you, it's really huge for them to be saying this out loud, I can imagine. And so just be the space for them to like listen, hear them out, and be there for them. And then maybe once you've sifted through your feelings, have another conversation with them about your feelings with it, and reiterate that you are on their side, you're wanting to support them, and you care about them, and also just like wanted to be communicative and open about your feelings too, because they're being open. My other piece of advice is, I think that tends to be a narrative in the queer community sometimes that if your partner comes out as trans and you're not just completely happy-go-lucky and don't have any negative emotions, or if you do have those negative emotions, that you're a bad partner. And I don't think that that's true. I think where that becomes true is if you're being a TERF, if you're being transphobic or homophobic towards them, if you're not being a safe space for them and just being rude. Obviously that means you're not being a good partner and you have your own things you need to work out. However, we're human and we all have emotions and feelings, and this is a big deal and a big process and a big journey transition. And so it's natural to have those feelings. And so I recommend, if you're not in therapy already, to get in therapy, to just have a neutral third party to discuss and process through these things with. Because I'm a really big advocate for therapy, and I think it's a really awesome tool for anybody to use for various reasons. And so that's another thing that I think is important, is to make sure you're processing through your emotions, you're taking care of your mental health, so that you can have the capacity to care for your partner, who is also going through a lot in this process. Another piece of advice I have is to soak up trans information online and in person if you're able to. That'd be cool. But whether it's looking stuff up on Google, following Instagram influencers and accounts that are trans, subscribing to trans YouTube channels like this one, and just like finding the outlets that you enjoy receiving information for. For example, my husband really likes podcasts, and when he's into stuff and when he's wanting to learn about things, he usually will look up podcasts on it. So that's another option, just so that you can have information to go off of when you're in this process, because it can be a lot to try to figure all that out. And I'm always learning stuff. Riley's always learning stuff and like telling me about new things. So I think that's definitely very helpful. And I know I mentioned communication earlier, but I think something that's also helpful is to do regular check-ins with each other, whether it's like once a week, every 2 weeks, or once a month, just to see how each other is doing. And I think this is just helpful to do in a relationship regardless, especially once your partners come out. It might be hard for them to come to you about certain things, and so just setting up a space where both of you know it's a check-in, it's a safe space for you to bring up anything that you might need, and it's just a good way to get in the habit of having consistent communication with one another. I think it just helps your overall connection, and it's good to just, like I said, get in the habit of communication. I think my last thing is just to take care of yourself and ask your partner like what they need from you. Ask how you can help. Ask for things that are off the table or would be uncomfortable for them and they're off limits, just so that you know going into different situations what will be helpful and what won't, rather than asking in the moment, because that usually isn't a good idea. And yeah, just sitting with your feelings, talking through with someone that you trust, like a therapist, taking care of yourself, communicating, and also trying to find the fun in it. I think that's one of my favorite parts, aside from communication, is just finding the fun in different scenarios with all of this. And yeah, I think that's all I have for right now and for today's video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them below, and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so that we can spread our information and everything across YouTube. And our Instagrams will be in the description of the video as well if you want to follow us along there. And thank you again for sitting and watching, and we hope you have a lovely day. Bye, friends. Before I forget, I also just want to say that to the partners out there, I get what you're feeling. You are valid, your partner is valid, and the fact that you're watching this video means you care about the person that you're with enough to seek information like this. So I'm proud of you. I'm sure that your partner is proud of you, and seeking information like this and getting info and learning will help you love them and understand the situation in a better way, which will just help you both grow towards each other and closer. So thanks for being here, and I send all the love and light both to you and your partner, and yeah, have a lovely day.